We're back to this guy. I've shaken out a little bit of black here in my paint well, and you may be able to see that. And that's what I'm going to paint his hair with. So we'll get that up there so you can see it. The black is here. And I don't need much black, and I don't need much water, but we're just going to paint his eyebrows that way. And what I want is a fairly watered down white, or black. I don't need a lot, because I don't have a lot to worry about, and I don't want him to be real stark. So I'm going to put this over here and then add more water to it. And I really want it to be watered down because I'm going to go back over it with a, that's about right. I don't want it to be real stark and black and stand out in real contrast to the rest of the skin. And I'm just going to highlight where I've cut him out, where I've given him an eyebrow. So I got a stray mark up there. We'll wash that off. Wipe that off. Get rid of that stray mark. Got his eyebrows. Looking okay. Add a little bit out here. We'll dry that real quick. Next thing we want to do is highlight. Like I said, this buttermilk is a perfect highlight for what we want to do because we don't need a whole lot of highlight. I'm going to take a brush that I have that's very soft and I can just drag it across. But what I want to do is go into that lid, and I've got a lot of paint on the outside of that brush, on the very end of that brush. I want to get most of it off. So what I'm going to do is on my paper towel, you could do it on a piece of paper, I want to charge that brush up. I want plenty of color in there, but I don't want a lot of it in any one spot. And all I'm going to do is rake it across the highlights. It's going to catch it on those outside ridges. Don't need a lot. That just adds another layer of highlight to that eyebrow. Okay. Alright, the next thing I usually do is I do a paint sealer. I use this Joe Sonja matte varnish polyurethane water-based sealer. What it does is it makes sure that my paint is not going to fade. And because this guy's fairly small, I don't need a whole lot. Let me get some of these things out of my way here. I'm going to use that same brush that I had. I've used it so long I don't even know what it's called. This thing is worn out. It says 6, could be a 9, I don't know. It works for me. Find one that looks like that. I'm going to use that Joe Sonja finish, and I'm just going to cover the painted surfaces, which in this case is the entire face. I want to put it on there. And what I want is to make sure that this paint does not fade over time. This was a technique taught to me by a friend of mine here in our local club, Cleve Taylor. He's a cowboy carver from the CCA, and he'd paint like this all the time. Okay, wash my brush out. You can see how we've got that stuff all over the place. I'm going to take my paper towel and I just want to wipe the highlights off of it. I don't want too much of it because if you use too much of this, it can tend to be gummy on your painting. It wets the color rather than brings it out, so it's got a little bit more color to it. We're going to make sure we're dry. So I'll hit it with a hair dryer again. And now to finish this, I want to use the technique my friend taught me, and we're going to use a mixture of Watco wax. You probably can't see the little tag I wrote on there, but this is Watco wax. It's mixed half natural and half dark. Unfortunately, you can't buy the dark anymore. It is not being manufactured. But with the light and the dark, it gives you an ability to antique this. Now be careful with this stuff because it has a tendency to gum up your fingers, and it's not a really good thing. In fact, it has warnings all over the label. So I'm not going to hold the part. I'm going to hold the part that's not being antiqued. So what I want to do is just get a little bit of this on my brush, stiff brush, and I just want to cover this entire painting with it. Cover this entire carving. This is going to antique because it's going to get down in those corners. And we're going to rub most of this off of there because they're putting it on there fairly liberally, although not a whole lot. On some, and I don't do this on every carving. I do it on some carvings where I want it to look old and kind of worn out. And on this one, we're going to see how it looks when we get all that off of there. So we've covered the entire painted surface of this carving. Lay that off to the side. I'm going to grab another paper towel. And we're going to see how much of that we can get off. And I just want to remove it because it has a tendency to negate everything. So if you add a dark color in one area, this has a tendency to negate that. If your eyes are real bright white, it has a tendency to negate that. But it also has a tendency to make it have some shadows. And so I like it on some carvings. I don't like it on all of them. If I want my carving to be really wild, colored painting, I'll do that. But you can see now down here in the corners, you've got dark down in here, you've got dark down in here. It highlights these and accentuates these things in here. And then when I go to dry it, hopefully it'll turn out like I want. Give me a second to turn on the hairdryer, and we'll dry it. And there we go. Like I said, it has a tendency to even out the colors. And so it took the highlights and darkened them down a little bit. Also took the lighter areas and darkened them as well. In a later video, I'll show you what it looks like when you just put on the natural. And you don't worry about the dark. But we've got dark down in here and all of these things. And this would make a fine gift for someone. Or you can sell these for a little bit of money. Or they make good Christmas gifts for those people. You can also use this as a bookmark for those that don't have a need to open a letter. Anyway, we'll finish this video. I've got one more to paint. We'll paint that one a little bit different, using a little bit different colors and a little bit different finishing technique. On this, I would finish it by just lightly spraying a little bit of the Minwax polyurethane satin wax on the outside of it. It's already got a wax coating from the antiquing, and another wax coating on the outside is going to be a very fine addition to the end of this and make sure that it's not going to fade on you. Again, make sure you've signed your carving. I haven't done that. I will do that before I give it away. All right, I hope you enjoyed that painting. We'll come back and we'll paint one more and we'll finish this series. See you on the next one.